diversity and smart use of irrigation are key factors for success at Waitatapia Farming in Manawatu. The Dalrymple brothers, Hugh and Roger, engage with the best available farming practices and research across their livestock, cropping, forestry and other operations.
Waitatapia Farming is a family-owned business, 50-50 owned by my brother Roger and myself, and it's split up into basically 4 divisions. So we have a fresh vegetable, an arable and processed vegetable, and then we have a stock division and we have a development division, and I suppose a 5th one in kind of way is our forestry division. The family's been in the business for 5 generations now. The 5th generation is on the property, and it's evolved from what was a broad sheep and beef with a little bit of forestry on it to a lot of forestry and a lot of, I suppose, upgraded farming in between the dunes, where we've put a lot of irrigation on now and we're farming vegetables and arable and things, and largely as a result of the investment in technology and so on. We started years ago. We split the farm up into much smaller fields. So they were 100, 200 acres and back in those days, 80 to 120 hectares sort of stuff. And so we did that, but then along came irrigation. We pulled all that out, relaned the property and put irrigation throughout the property over a series of years as we could afford it. Then, as time moved on, we invested in tech tractors, self-steering in them. So one of the stunning bits when we started to do that was the ability to mismatch implements and equipment, because they're driving with a 2 centimetre accuracy. And to be blunt, we just put it in initially as a bit of a fuel saver and time saver, and also it would help look after the staff, because keeping your eye on the lines is quite wearing on people when they're doing long days in spring and autumn. The thing would keep the line so they could concentrate on the equipment, in other words, make sure the gear was going right. So that was really good for them. And then we've advanced with sprayers and fertiliser spreaders, where you can dial into 1 nozzle to operate on a 36 metre sprayer, 3 nozzles, 5 nozzles, and they operate at the correct rate and droplet size at a range of speed. It's all automatic. The technology we've put in place has allowed us to grow a diversity of crops. Firstly, the irrigation, because that's allowed us to get a wider use out of our lighter, sandier soils, and they're very good medium for growing plants. So the fact of irrigation, and I suppose in its own way, is new technology, but the fact that we found we could get really successful results out of good drainage, good subdivision, good soil management with composting and a different nutrient brew. So a greater control over your inputs, I guess. And as far as what that's allowed us to grow, we've gone from basically what I call a relatively basic arable structure of, say, barley, maize and wheat, to now a wide variety of crops in buckwheat, quinoa, sweet corn, beans, peas, freezer peas, and seed peas, fodder beets, sugar beets, obviously winter crops, there's oats, barley and maize still in our mix, and the fresh veggies. So we're growing the frill and fancy lettuces and cos lettuce, broccoli, collie, cabbage, green, red Savoy cabbage, and kale. And I've got a new product, I call it collolini. It's long-stemmed cauliflower. So we're growing that now too and supplying that to the market. We're fortunate enough with our irrigation water to have a great supply fundamentally from a very good underground river not far from the main Rangatiki River, and that's all from shallow bores. Inside the shed here is some really important tech, I think. It's a simple unit, thing called a bubbler unit, and that bubbler unit records the water level in the bore 365 days of the year, all day, 24 hours a day. So when we're going to apply for consents and make sure we understand what we're doing with our environment, that's the most important piece of kit we've got in our bores. Yeah, well, how do you feel it's going in terms of this cover crop process that we're doing?
No, it looks really good. On a day-to-day basis, I organise all the staff with what jobs they're doing for the day. I have about half a dozen people on day-to-day, but then there's a multitude of contractors coming through as different crops come along. McCain's, they organise all the harvesting for their crops, so that's the peas, the beans and the sweet corn. And then we organise the harvesting for the grain crops, the the barleys, the maize, quinoa, buckwheat. So you've got to organise drying space, trucking, and fix any problems that pop up along the way. We have a number of trials, usually every year, for different varieties of maize or sweet corn, beans. Generally, we just organise a patch in the paddock and we leave that unplanted, and someone else will come in and plant it all up and monitor it. And then we just treat it as part of our paddock. So if we put some fertiliser on, it gets fertiliser, or it gets the spray that the rest of the paddock gets.
We constantly have universities visiting here, and we constantly have independent companies wanting to come and trial stuff. So if you say, oh, that's a nuisance, well, then you won't learn about it. So yes, at times it is a nuisance when you see stuff. We've had a robotic weeder trial here. They did all their research on a robotic weeder, which is now being sold in the US. And that's, to me, really exciting to see what's going to happen next. I mightn't be able to afford that straight away or mightn't need it straight away, but basically I'd say saying yes to a lot of things allows you to see that latest tech. Open yourself up, open up your front gate, and also get outside and go and listen to what's around. Go to conferences, go to all sorts of things. So various ways of getting it in here, but yep, getting on the phone, just talking to other farmers at conferences, you know, the lunchtime talk, the cup of tea, the beer at the end of the day sort of thing, all gives you an opportunity to learn about tech.